So in the post has come a nice big box. It says HP, but I guarantee you it isn't. I ripped off the labels and things. Let's open it together and hopefully, if the invoice is correct, because I've already read the invoice, this is the riser card for the making a right mess of this. This is the riser card for the system, and so this should then get us down the road of adding a graphics card into the server. Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, look at that. This is being properly packed. Oh yes, this is very nice. So let's get it out and get rid of the box. It's the riser card. So I probably don't need the bracket, but I do probably need the card. And the reason why I need the card is because this riser is required in the system to make it work nicely. This is a 16x PCI sort of, I suppose, a standard extension riser cable for when you have systems where perhaps you need to mount the graphics card slightly differently than the actual slot on the back, or you want to leave some room because maybe it's a double gang card and you need to gain access underneath or something like that, because a lot of motherboards are badly designed. So this probably isn't going to cut it. So the original plan was to take a graphics card. This is our stunt graphics card for these purposes. The original plan was going to be to mount, maybe the graphics card into something like this, and then maybe cut this down to just be the right size, and then to slot it in. But then I'd have to take the riser off of the other side and then probably cut a hole in there, and then how do you mount that onto the side of the case? It started to get a little bit complicated. So the next thing I thought, which is the reason why I ordered everything, the next thing that we thought about doing, and we had a bit of a test just to sort of see what it would be like to do. I got an old a broken graphics card, and I basically worked out how to make it an 8x so that it will fit in an 8x slot. But I don't like the idea of that, because that even doing it to a graphics card that was gone beyond all belief wasn't going to come back. It didn't feel right. It felt like a little bit of a risk cutting. I have seen it done on the internet, and it horrifies me how people do it. It doesn't seem right. So the next thing is probably to modify the slot. So what we will do together is we will take this PCB off of the bracket, the riser bracket, and then we will open the end of this slot, and then we will insert the graphics card in, and we will run a 16x graphics card on an 8x slot, which apparently is possible. And apparently a lot of graphics cards run like that anyway. So even though most motherboards, and again this is a stunt motherboard, this one has come to the end of life, most motherboards have these 16. Apparently when you SLI a card, even if you have two 16 slots, they run at 8. So and I've been looking at how cards are modified, how people modified systems, and they've been testing cards, and it turns out that it doesn't seem to compromise the performance. 4x would compromise the performance. It would probably take out most of the 3D handling. But AX doesn't. It's a few percent off the top of the performance, and now I can live with that. So this, like I said, this will be our stunt card for testing, just to make sure. The next thing to do will be to disassemble this and to work out how to cut the end away. The reason why stunt motherboard is here is because before I do anything to this bit, I'm going to do it on this 4X connection. I'm going to cut that away and just see how it feels, just to see what problems will actually arise from doing that, just to see what the risk to damaging the final pins are. Because if I damage the final pins on this one, this card will default to 4X, and that's not what I want. So I'm just going to have a play with this and see what I can do. The original plan was to desolder this connector and then desolder this connector, to modify this connector from underneath and then mount it back onto the board. But that seems like a hell of a faff when all I got to do is cut the end of the connector away. We will see which one of these plans is fruitful and what happens over the next couple of hours, days, or however long it takes to get it done. Like I said, I'm not in any rush. I want it to work. I don't need it quick. But I was hoping that that would be a nice simple solution. And I had one of these lying around from when I've obviously had this mounting problem with a card, you know, when you need to mount something somewhere else. With this board, because it's a short board and it fitted in a big case, I could mount it a lot further down. But again, the problem is this isn't flush. So, and as I think I said previously when I was discussing problems, this riser card has logic in it, and the system is expecting the riser card to be in position. And if the riser card isn't in position, the system errors it out, and then you can't use the slot. There is a version of this that just has one 16X slot on it, which is specifically designed for server graphics cards. But the problem with that is twofold. One, trying to find these 16X risers is nearly impossible. It's almost like they didn't make very many of them, and so they seem to be very, very rare. The second thing is that a server graphics card usually doesn't have any ports at the back because it's designed for virtualization. And they're very, very, very expensive. So we're going to try and shoehorn a domestic 16X graphics card into an 8X slot. Hopefully we'll get away with it. Join me on the journey. So we're going to have a go at working out how to deal with the riser. I've just taken out the screws. Small part of me thinks I could just go for it. And I've sort of been assessing the tools that I could use. My first thought was just a box cutter, but the plastic is harder than you think. You have to put a lot of force into it, and even though I don't think there's anything that could be damaged if you slip, yeah, I don't know. So I've rejected a box cutter. I would have liked to have used these I don't know what they're called, side cutters. I don't know, they're used mainly for trimming off the through-hole components, but I have to be honest, I use them mostly as plastic cutters. But it doesn't really fit into the groove, and I don't want... The problem is I can't afford to damage any of these pins. So I've rejected that one. I did have a think of having a melt. I did think, you know, I can melt things. So I dug out Mr. Plastic Melter. This is a soldering iron that, to be honest with you, is utterly crap. and you know, it's got the right size tip, but again, you're going to leave melted plastic and you potentially could displace pins. I mean, I know that's the problem with all of these. I'm just, it's a possibility. I'm going to have a test. I'm going to have a test with it on this sacrificial motherboard that I've dug out. I'm going to do Mr. Melty on this side, the wrong side, just to have a look, just to see, because, you know, this board's completely gone, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to have a melt of that side. But what I'm liking the most, or what I liked the most, was the Dremel. But I rejected a couple of traditional Dremel parts straight away because this is a cut-off wheel. And the problem with this is by the time you are, you know, close enough in there, you are potentially damaging pins or connectors. So no cut-off. The cut-off wheel isn't going to cut it. But I found a couple of other Dremel bits in my box. This one I think is a ceramic cutter for cutting ceramics. It's about the right thickness. It's just a little bit thick, so it could, but I suspect that will fill up with melted plastic quite quickly and might become a bit of an annoyance to use. It's a possibility. But this one I think is the most likely. This is, I think, for cutting metal. I think that's what it's for. Not really focusing, is it? Yeah. And again, it's about the right thickness, because I only want to really take out that bit there. That's as close as I want to go in. I just want to take it out. I mean, if I can make that nice and thin, I can come in maybe with a box cutter and gently remove it. But yeah. So what I'm going to do, so there's a small part of me just goes, yeah, go for it. But then I'd have to get a new one of these, and you know, I don't really want to mess about, because these take time to come. So out comes Mr. Sacrificial, who's been cannibalized for parts. And I think, because again, I've got the same problem with this as I have with this, is that I can't really get in there flat. So I can see how this works at a slight angle. It's the same thing here. I can practice at a slight angle, so I can actually try the same thing. And also this has a little bit of a starter groove, so it might be useful for testing. But it's the same, it's going to be about the same angle to get into here as it is to here. So that's going to be the plan, I think. And then just for fun, after we've done this, if this one works, we might have a go with Mr. Melty and just see how it goes. Like I said, this is what we're going to do. You're welcome to watch along, or if it's going to bore you, skip forward. But this is just in the interest of testing. Okay, so I've mounted the bit as far out as I dare. Let's see what happens. This is where it's going to get quite fun. Or is that done? I think that's done. I can feel the pins. Don't want to damage any of them though. I can see some plastic is still there. Well, let's find a graphics card. Clear out all of the crap that's got into it. I think when I do this on the other one, I think I will put something in there. Don't know if that's... Doesn't look very pretty, does it? Let's see what happens. Nope. So it does need a little bit more, but let's get that done. I think that's going to do it. I think we need to have a quick assessment as to whether or not we have actually damaged any pins, because if we've damaged a single pin, the project is over and we have to try a different way. But let's just have a look together. Just take that. I can't take my safety goggles off because I can't see very well. No. We don't think we have we? Yeah, I think we have a winning technique. I don't think we're going to use the multi-soldering iron technique. The only thing that I will do different is I won't be working around the camera, because that has made this a lot harder than it should have been. So what I will probably do is just do it, and I'm not going to worry about whether it's in shot for the camera or anything like that, because that's actually quite hard work. And I think that's the way to do it. Let's get it done. built something. Where did I put that I built? Yeah, I cut this off a motherboard. I cut this off an old graphics card so that it would fit in, so that I wouldn't fill the slot with lots of crap, but also it'll show me when I'm far enough in. Oh. I think we did better on the test than we did on this one. It's a different plastic. That's the problem. It's a slightly harder plastic. Right, let's see. Okay. I don't think we've damaged it. We got a little bit close to two of the pins at the back. We did cross over a little bit. That helpful piece of plastic guide didn't really help. It kind of guided me. It made me bounce slightly off, but I don't think I damaged the pin, so. All right. Put it in the server. Let's see what happens. All right, so I've mounted the riser back into the riser bracket assembly, I guess. I mean, the whole thing's a riser assembly. The graphics card's in. There's no screws that hold them because it's like a friction fit once it slides in. Let's just double check that we are powered down, that the OS isn't running. Oh, good. We can pull out the original, which we're going to save. You know, we might have made a horrible mistake and this might not work. I'm hoping this is going to work. I don't even know if this graphics card works, to be honest with you. So let's just see if it will go in. Yes, it will. The keen-eyed among you will notice that the heat sinks don't have fans on them anymore, neither does the IMM module. This is because all of the fans are back in these caddies, and we've set them up I've set them up by cutting the pulse width modulation connector to all of the front fans. The front fans go full tilt. I think I need faster fans, to be honest, and I might invest in faster fans. But the rear fans, they run with the PWM on, because the PWM is on the same pin, and if you cut the PWM to both fans, the system decides it has a faulty fan and shuts down. So I've left the speedo sensors on both, so the system knows the RPM, and the IMM seems to get a bit confused. It's like, why is that running fast? And sort of tries to deal with it, but I don't know. I've got to work out how to convince it that there is a fan. What I'm thinking is maybe I get a third or 3 more fans that I mount, you know, maybe on top of some of the chipsets, just the small PWM, you know, small PWM fans, and run them back to here to one of the fans, just to give the IMM the satisfaction that it's getting a pulse width modulation check and it's also getting a speed sensor. I don't know how to do that. I'm working on it, but there is enough airflow going through. I do have the processors running in the 50 degrees Celsius, both of them now. It was a worry when I first started up that they were running far too hot because there wasn't enough airflow through the system. I'd like to get that down at least another 15 degrees, and I think I can do it by just playing with the fans. I also have to look in to see if I can actually ever get into the IMM. Just tell the IMM, make the fans run faster. It would be so much easier, but that's the trouble. It seems to be like it's the bubble that is independent of everything. All right, so enough talk. We put the graphics card in. Now we need to connect it up, and then I'll take you to a monitor. Wander over to the actual computer screen and have a look at what the program I'm using, which is called Specky, actually says about the graphics card. Again, this is not anything special graphics card that's being put in here. It's just a normal graphics card. It's just one I found. It appears to be a GeForce 9500 GT, and it's just installed itself on some default drivers. But it is basically running. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of testing. I might actually hook this up to my other monitors and give it a go and just see what it looks like on because this, I don't think this monitor, for all it's worth, which is lovely, it's a lovely old monitor. First of all, you can see it's a very square monitor. Well, maybe you can't actually. You can see it's a very square monitor, and the fact that it's a very square monitor means that it's probably not got the best resolution, so it might be that that is the limiting factor at the moment. I don't think so. I seem to remember this not being a great card. Like I said, this is a sacrificial card. So I'm going to connect this up to my main monitors, have a test of the system, see what it feels like, and then I might stick a better graphics card in, but I'm going to have to do some plastic modification, I think. But before I do that, I'm going to see if I can buy the actual baffles or whatever they are, or I don't know, vent tunnels, I don't know, flow control element, I don't know what they're called. It'll be on the parts list anyway if it exists. But success so far.